We were camped at San Rafael Bridge Campground in the Buckhorn Draw of Utah. It was a beautiful morning and we were by ourselves. Today our goal was Moab. From there we would take a few days break from the TAT to attend to some business back in Oklahoma. But for now, the magnificent San Rafael swell awaited. This is the San Rafael Swinging Bridge. It was built by the Civilian Conservation Corps in the 1930s. It allowed ranchers to cross the river and take their livestock to the other side. And it also is credited with opening up the San Rafael swell to exploration by people like Ray and I.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 14 of the TransAmerica Trail. There's the swinging bridge right there on the right.
Yeah, as we're driving, we pass by this sinkhole. Looks pretty deep down there. Yeah, there are wild burros out here. I think that's Papa.
Now south of Interstate 70. Continuing on the TransAmerica Trail, the long way to Green River. Nice geology mountains in the distance. Rough road ahead. So we have turned onto a very familiar road. This is the way across Hans Flat to Canyonlands National Park Base District. We've been on this road many times. We are headed out of Green River, Utah on Old Highway 6. Going this a few miles. We turn to the south and head towards the town of Overland. And we just turned on Gemini Bridges Trail, which is, again, part of the TransAmerica Trail. Nobody coming in the mirror. There's Monitor and Merrimack, straight ahead.
Here we are at Gemini Bridges.
Thank goodness for 2-speed transfer cases.
No brakes.
There's Goose Rock dead ahead. I'm trying to kiss that gently with my front tire.
We'd pop out onto Highway 191, just north of Moab. From there, we'd drive to Monticello, where we would spend the night. Then we'd return to Oklahoma City for just a few days. But we'd be back in a week, ready to continue from where we'd left off the TransAmerica Trail in downtown Moab.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 15 of the TransAmerica Trail. Ray and I are departing the town of Moab, Utah. We took a couple of day break to go back to Oklahoma City, take care of a few things. Now we're back on the trail where we left off. This is gorgeous right in here. We'll be coming out of the mountains here shortly down to some flatlands. Sign said hill. GPS route's a little confusing in here. I'm not following the road very well. Looks like it's an artifact of maybe data reduction, reduce the number of points. A little bit further up here, it is going to rejoin the road that I'm on as marked by my topo maps.
We're just top 10,000.
there's Mark playing cattle herder up ahead, and as you can see, they don't really care about me either. We just slowly get on the side of the road and try to pass them by.
Bigger than us, so we're gonna let him go first. Ray and I are arriving in Monticello, and we'll be spending the night here. And this is the official end for us of the Utah-Nevada segment of the route. Hello everyone, I hope you enjoyed part 7, and I'm here to talk again a little bit more about some of the things about my Jeep. I originally planned to do a video about some of the other mods on the Jeep, suspension, lift, that kind of stuff. But it's been raining the last couple of days a lot as I've been preparing these videos, and so I really haven't had a chance to get out there in clear weather and shoot some good video or still pictures. So I said, well, what else can I do? And another thing have been wanting to share with you is exactly what do I do with my Nexus 7, some of the ways I use it. And I do have an old video. If you scroll way down in my videos, you'll find an old video on the Nexus 7, and it talks about what I do. But I do more now, and so this is kind of an update on that. But that also goes more into the details of the install. I'm not going to talk about the install of it. I would like to say that the Nexus 7 is a rather dated tablet. I used a 2012 version for a couple of reasons, but the primary reason, believe it or not, is because the headphone jack and the mini USB jack are on the same side of the device, so that when I mount it in its rack, I don't have one cable poking out one way and one cable poking out the other way, and then I've got an awkward way to try and get that Nexus 7 attached into the RAM mount. So that's primarily the reason I used the 2012 Nexus 7 instead of the 2013, where they were actually on opposite sides. Unfortunately, the 2012 Nexus 7 is getting very, very slow. Google did some updates to the Android operating system that eventually they stopped doing updates. And but the more updates they did, the slower it got. And the Nexus 7s are famous for, as they're used, losing memory anyway. I'm not quite sure why that is, but it's a fact. So sometimes my Nexus 7 can be frustratingly slow. And nowadays, it's difficult to find 7-inch tablets. I paid typically $150 to $200 for an Nexus 7 tablet, and now I can go out and I can buy probably a 9-inch tablet for $450. And a 9-inch tablet is a couple inches bigger than a 7-inch tablet. Not really, because the 7-inch tablet, the Nexus 7, has big bezels around it, which the 9-inch tablet probably would not have. But I'm thinking about some ways to move to a different tablet. No, I'm not going to go to the Apple ecosystem. I'm not a Apple user. I am an Android user. I've been using Android Nexus and now Pixel 2 phones forever and ever, and I've been using the Nexus 7 tablets and have really enjoyed using them. So if anybody's out there and they've got a different tablet they're using, please share that with me in the discussion and give me some ideas here. And tell me what you've been doing and how you've been mounting it. I'm curious if you've been doing that. Anyway, I'd like to tell you what I'm doing with Android, and so I think you'll find that helpful. And I'll show you a few stills here and I'll discuss how I used some of the different apps, and maybe that will give you some other ideas. Well, probably the best place to start is with the app that I use the most, and that would be Multiplayer Music, which obviously I'm going to use to play music. I do buy music as MP3 files off Amazon primarily, and I do have some CDs that I have ripped to MP3s, and I also carry much of that music on my tablet. And it's just a very good way, I find, to enjoy drive time. The next app, and I'm sure you've seen this one pop up on some of my videos, is called Torque Pro. This is an app that monitors the CAN bus in the Jeep, and that requires some hardware. You require a Bluetooth to CAN bus adapter. You can buy those; they're pretty common, and you can buy those off of again Amazon or probably other places as well. The configuration of Torque Pro is up to the user. All the gauges that you see here are ones that I have selected and put on this page. You can have multiple pages if you want. I do not. I prefer just to have the one page and fit everything onto the one page. You can change the size of the gauge. You can change the style of the gauge. There's a lot of flexibility here. So it's a great little app for doing some custom work to monitor how your Jeep is performing. Another app that I use is CoPilot GPS. This is my turn-by-turn road navigation app. It does not require a data signal. It's complete, including maps. And you can select the maps when you buy the app. And the maps I selected were for North America, including Canada, so that was very useful when I drove up to Canada and Alaska. It's complete. It provides me accurate information for navigation, and it doesn't require a data signal. Yes, there is Google Maps, and yes, I know you can download Google Maps for use when you don't have a data signal, but sometimes you're just in a situation where downloading the maps isn't practical because you don't have a data signal where you're at and you need to know where you want to go. So CoPilot GPS fills that niche. Another app that I use is Repeater Book, and if you watched part 5 of the TAT videos all the way through, then you saw a demonstration of how that works. But just to summarize again, Repeater Book keeps track of where the Jeep is at, and then I have it set, normally for 25 miles. Here it says 500 miles. But normally I have it set for 25 miles. It tells me the repeaters that are within 25 miles of the Jeep's location. And I can touch one of the call signs, and it will set all the parameters up for the FT857D to work over that. That does require some hardware, and I would encourage you to watch the other video. It's got some explanations about all that. Now, while Repeater Book is good for repeaters, when I'm not using the 857 over repeater, then I need a different app. It's called Pocket Receive Transmit, or PocketRXTX. and I can use this for basically manual control of the radio. The reason this is helpful is because where I have the radio mounted is kind of off the side above my head between the two seats and near the ceiling of the Jeep. And that's just an awkward place to reach the dials and see the readouts and everything. So I can get all that off the Nexus 7, and it's much easier. And this basically gives me full control of the radio. Another app that I use is called RadarNow. And this gives me a picture of the radar as seen over a data connection. So you have to have a data connection for this to work. There's no radar in the Jeep. There's no radar in the Nexus 7. That should be pretty obvious. What RadarNow will do is if I have a data connection, it will give me the radar picture for a radar site that I select. And in this case, it's one near my home in the center of Oklahoma here. And you can see, as I said there in the introduction, it's raining. And it has looked like this for the last several days. Just a lot of rainstorms around us. One of the nice things about RadarNow is I can tell it to, just as with the repeater book, keep track of where the Jeep is and center the image around where the Jeep is. I don't let this run constantly. It is constantly consuming data and using up processing power inside my very slow Nexus 7. But if I see a storm up ahead or something like this, it's really comforting if I can bring this up and just kind of see what I'm getting myself into. When you're out in a really wilderness areas and you don't have a data signal, then it's useless because you don't have the data signal that you require. But when I'm driving down the highway, I'll have a data signal. Sometimes in some areas I'll have a data signal, which surprises me. And but it's a nice little app, and it does a good job giving the idea of what the storm systems are looking like around you. The next app I use on the Nexus 7 is Backcountry Navigator. And if you watched part 1 all the way through, then you saw how we get maps, how we put routes together in order to use Backcountry Navigator. It's a great little app. Can't recommend it highly enough. Using Backcountry Navigator, we have topo maps, and the topo maps are pretty reliable. The routes that they show, they usually show the roads, most of the roads that we take. We have our route plotted. If it turns out we have to take a different route, we maybe run into some fallen trees, for example, like we did, we can look at Backcountry Navigator and find that route. It works well in conjunction with the gazetteers, the paper maps. We usually carry those also. But once we have the route figured out on the gazetteer, we can take Backcountry Navigator and plot some waypoints, and then we can follow those waypoints to make our way where we need to be. And of course, because it's a topo map, it gives us an idea what the terrain is like. So when you hear me say something like I did in this video, looks like we're getting some flat country up ahead, that's because I'm looking at the map and I can see kind of what the terrain is going to be like as we travel along. Also, the topo maps will show features that you might not find on a regular road navigation map. For example, mining areas and sand dunes, different types of things like this that might be of interest. And usually for small towns and things like that, the topo maps will show streets, and sometimes they'll show individual buildings. It depends on the topo maps you're using. But that can be helpful in trying to figure out the size of a town. I do know that for the Apple ecosystem people, Gaia is a very popular app, and so I'd recommend checking that out. I have some friends who use it, and they give some impressive results. The next app that I use is ES File Explorer, and what I've done with it is set up a shortcut that takes me to important documents. When you're getting ready for a trip, there are probably going to be a number of important documents you'll have. Maybe you have a hotel reservation, maybe you have a backcountry permit, maybe you have some local maps, maybe a map of the trails that was just a piece of paper that you could scan in, and so you want to take a copy of that. You can see that I have information for there's a folder there on the right, upper right, called TAT, August, September 18, and that's where I had our permits and information about the route and things like that. In the folder called Jeep, I have some documents, such as I have a picture of the fuse box in the Jeep and what each fuse is, so I don't have to look at the lid. I can look at the picture, which is easier to see than the lid, which is at an awkward place in my Jeep. There's other pictures in there as well. I have the torque values. I have the owner's manual as a PDF file. If I get text, I generally make that a PDF file. Images I just keep as JPEGs, and then either way I can open them up. In cameras, I have the manuals for my cameras in PDF format, so if I want to look up some detail of how some obscure feature works, I can get into there. So it's just handy for carrying a variety of useful documents for out on the trail when you don't want to have the paper copies around. The final app I'll specifically show you is called QuickPic, and that is, love to show off pictures of my adventures, of my Jeep, and so I've put albums together, and I just copy small reduced size pictures over to the Nexus 7 tablet so that there's still plenty of memory left. And that's what you're seeing here. So if somebody says, what was it like when you drove the Trans Am Trail? Well, I'll be able to pull up pictures of the Trans Am Trail and show them some pictures. So that about summarizes how I use the Nexus 7. If you've got a favorite app that you're using on Android, or that you've got on iOS but you know is available on Android also, please, by all means, let me know what it is. I very much enjoy expanding the capability of the system. If you've got some hardware ideas as far as a tablet that might be useful for me, I'd appreciate your comments on that as well. Anyway, hope you have a great day. Bye-bye now.